So I don't need to introduce Resident Evil to you. Chances are if you're watching this video, you've heard the name of this franchise, be it through the games, through the movies, through the TV show on Netflix, whatever. Resident Evil is probably the premier survival horror franchise and has lasted for 30 years, with a new game releasing this year, next year, and they have been as strong as they ever have been, I think. Resident Evil is one of my favorite franchises of all time, even if I've only been a fan since around the time of RE4 Remake. Since then, I've gone back to play the originals, all the other main numbered games, and have developed a very deep love for the series, even with just how campy and goofy it can get, but I love it. Now, in my time as a Resident Evil fan, I've seen the usual stuff one could expect online. Fan theories, fan takes, a lot of horny shit, like a lot, not by choice, but still. But one thing that's always bothered me after learning the truth of the matter was this piece of misinformation that I see talked about all the time by fans and content creators who play the games. And the fact is, they say that Raccoon City was nuked by the government. This is not true and never has been true. Let me explain. In the most recent entry to the game franchise, Resident Evil Requiem, or simply Resident Evil 9, we as players get to return to Raccoon City as Leon Kennedy to figure out the mystery of Elpis and kill some zombies along the way. Throughout your time spent in the ruins of Raccoon City and the RPD, Leon will talk to Sherry Birkin about the events that happened that night, and Sherry Birkin has a line about the destruction of Raccoon City.
Bad news, Sherry. This place is overrun with zombies.
What? That's impossible. They should have all been wiped out by the missile.
Yeah, they should have.
Many people I saw play the game reacted in this exact same way, basically asking, I thought Raccoon City was nuked. Because of this, people have assumed RE9 was retconning the destruction of the city into being struck by missiles supposed to being a nuke. And to them I say, that is actually a very fair mistake to make. But it just isn't the case. First time we see the destruction of the city is in the original release of Resident Evil 3, wherein we see the city be struck by missiles, multiple missiles, in the ending cinematic, which is likely just for stylistic purposes, as the in-game ending depicts it as just a single missile strike. And the singular bomb is the canonical explanation for how the city was destroyed. In the ending cinematic, once the bombs go off, the walls of fire rise, and a mushroom cloud forms. Now I say mushroom cloud alongside everything else, and you probably think, so it was nuked. Allow me to tell you this. Nukes are not the only bombs to cause a mushroom cloud, just the most well known. Many explosives can cause the mushroom clouds that you see, and they aren't nuclear in nature. So you may be asking this, then what did destroy Raccoon City? Well, according to the official Resident Evil 3 strategy guide and story analysis, Conquest of Nemesis, the first mention as to the properties of the bomb is that they are experimental thermobaric missiles, which is supported by an interview done for the magazine Famitsu with a writer from the RE team, Yasuhisa Kawamura, where he also states them to be thermobaric missiles. People may start saying that relying on external material to get the answers doesn't count, but in this case, it's all we really actually have to go off of. As in the actual original games, the property of the bombs that struck the city are never once mentioned. The games never stated the bombs to be nuclear, and the only information we had explaining this says they were something else. And just for record, thermobaric missiles are able to produce mushroom clouds as a result of their detonation. To add on the original Japanese release of the Resident Evil Archives official reference guides written by the staff at Capcom, they also state that the missiles that struck Raccoon City were thermobaric. However, the US release does call them nuclear bombs, but this is the only time they are referred to as such, and only within the American release of the Archives. Future releases of the guide scrub the information of the missile's properties altogether from both versions. You could say that this being information removed from the guide means it's not true, but I believe that this is just a one-off moment and we can still take the original text as being the canonical answer, because it is still supported by things said in Resident Evil 9. Aside from the aforementioned line from Sherry when you're in the city as Leon, Grace's report is something you unlock after beating the main story, and it has a line of text that reads as such. In 1998, Raccoon City was devastated by a massive outbreak caused by a viral leak from the pharmaceutical giant Umbrella. The United States government responded by launching a missile strike to wipe out the infected, and erected a blockade to seal off the city. Now, if it was me behind this in the writing room, if the bombs were nukes, I would have specified it as being a nuclear strike as opposed to just a missile strike. And I think it can still be safely assumed to be the thermobaric missiles that have already been mentioned by earlier material. Just for the sake of transparency, though, the original Japanese text of Grace's report never states what the bombs were, or the fact that they were used, even though we know they were. It just calls the bombing of Raccoon City a sterilization strategy, but I still don't believe that to disprove my point. So was Raccoon City being destroyed by thermobaric missiles a retcon? In my opinion, no. Because it was never officially known what kind of missile was used within the original games, it was just assumed to be a nuke by people. And the first official mention that stated what the missiles were stating that they were thermobaric in nature. And saying that it is still a retcon is, in my opinion, incorrect, as that is not what a retcon, by definition, is. A retcon is the act of changing facts or events in a previously established narrative. And the fact is, we never actually knew the missile's property in the games. So when they stated post RE3 what it was, that was the first time we ever got a real answer. However, there is an actual retcon involving the bombing of Raccoon City. It has nothing to do with the property of the missiles themselves, but the date of which it happened. First being stated to be on October 2nd, it was changed to being on October 1st. That was the only actual retcon in regards to the events of the Raccoon City incident. To conclude, Raccoon City was always bombed by thermobaric missiles, it was never a nuke, and the only real retcon was just a date change. Well, that was a pointless video, and I hope my rambles about Resident Evil was at least somewhat informative or just entertaining. I don't know why I made this video, I just wanted to. But thank you for watching. But really, it's all I got for you today, so until next time, I hope you have a great day.
You always got my back, and of course I got your back. Don't you worry about that, no. It's been a good day, good night. It's going